Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another podcast. We are dusting off the brand again, and today we're going to take a look at the squad and start sort of projecting ahead across the next 3 seasons. Because there's going to be a lot of turnover. There's issues within the squad. There's players who are a little bit past their best. There's players who are a little bit below the required level to play for this club. So I thought it would be good to go through the entire squad and see what their situation could be over the next 3 years. So we'll start off with the first team squad as it currently stands, and then we can look at the players that are out on loan and maybe some of the higher end academy players. But we'll start with the goalkeeper. So Alisson obviously is our number one, and there's been some talk about his future. Obviously we have Mamardashvili due to come in the summer of 2025. And what will that mean for Alisson? What will it mean for Caoimhín Kelleher, for Vítězslav Jaros, and for Harvey Davies? Alisson is the oldest of that group, obviously. He's also the highest paid, and he is the incumbent number one. In terms of his current contract, I believe it runs till 2027, but I just want to double check that it does. It runs till 2027. So I would be suggesting that with Mamardashvili to come in, the ideal situation would be to keep Alisson for 1 more year. And then in the summer of 2026, you move Alisson on and Mamardashvili becomes the undisputed number one. Alisson would be 33, about to turn 34 in the summer of 2026, and with 1 year left in his contract. And I do think you could still get not a huge fee, but a decent fee for him at that point. You will find clubs that would probably look at Alisson and say there's 3, maybe even 4 good years left there. And the club that continues to spring to mind for me is Bayern Munich. Now, we know they're going to extend Manuel Neuer for next season, but then in the summer of 2026, surely at that point, Neuer, who, let's be honest, is nowhere near the keeper he once was, at that point, you'd imagine at 40, he'd be moving on in 2026, or he'd be retiring, as the case would be. So they do own Alex Newell, but I don't think he's ever going to be seen as good enough. And if they want to go and bring in a younger goalkeeper to maybe develop, who's not quite ready, it might make sense for them to go for someone like Alisson. But either way, I do think 2026 is the departure date for Ali. With Yaros, I wonder if next season we look to send him out on loan, like a high-level loan, a top 4, top 5 league, get him a lot of experience under his belt, help with his development, and then bring him back in the summer of 2026 to be the number 2 for a year or two, not long-term, because at that point he would be 25. So you don't think you're going to get, 4 or 5 years of him, but perhaps he could come back and be the number 2 for a couple of years. Kelleher, I'd be stunned if he stays beyond this coming summer. He turns 27 this year, and he has been quite open about the fact he wants to go and be a number 1. So I think Kelleher will go this season, this summer rather. And then Harvey Davies can probably stick around next summer as the number 3. And then maybe in 2026, he goes out on loan or is sold at that point. Now, the other goalkeeper to factor in here is young Monsieur from the academy, who is very, very highly rated, like probably the most highly rated academy keeper that we've had. And perhaps if Davies was to depart on loan in 26 or 27 or permanently, he can step into that number 3 position. So for this season, we know what we have. For next season, I would be in favor of Alisson 1, Mamardashvili 2, Davies 3, with Kelleher gone. And then in 26, 27, Mamardashvili 1, Yaros back in off a loan, number 2, and then either Davies or Monsieur as the number 3, with Alisson sold. Because I think we need to get out of the habit of allowing players into the last 12 months of their contract. I think we've just got to start moving them out the door. And I know you can't sell a player that doesn't want to leave, but I think if you tell Alisson, look, he's now the number 1, you're the number 2, what do you want to do? I think he'd be okay then with going. So that's where I'd stand with the goalkeepers. In terms of the defence, Virgil is obviously a big question mark because of the contract, but my bet is he signs the contract. And it's maybe a 2+1, where there's a club or a mutual auction on that 3rd year. If he hits certain markers, maybe it becomes an automatic thing. But I would bet on Virgil being at the club for the next 3 seasons. And when you watch Virgil, there's no reason to believe that by the summer of 2027, going into the 27-28 season, which would be the 3rd year that we're looking at here, there's no reason to think he won't still be a very good defender. He'd be 36 entering the season. We've seen significantly worse defenders play to 37, 38 in this league. The way he looks after himself, the way he plays, I don't see any reason to think he couldn't play another 5 years. So we're going to mark Virgil down as somebody that's absolutely going to be here through the next 3 years. Trent then is a bigger question mark because there's more noise about his departure. However, let's work on the assumption that he signs the contract. And let's work on the assumption that he signs a 4-year deal. That would mean that Trent stays till 2029, under contract till 2029. There'd be no reason to sell him unless he wants to go. So we pencil Trent in as one that we keep. Then it gets a little bit more interesting So Ibu is up next. Now, he's obviously an elite level defender. Other than Virgil, I wouldn't have anybody in the league over him. I'm not sure there's anyone in Europe, bar maybe Bastoni, that I'd have above Ibu, outside of Virgil, of course. The injuries are a factor, but we need to just learn to mitigate them. I think you have to keep Ibu. At 25, he'll turn 26 in May. He is hopefully about to enter his peak years. There's no reason to think he'll suffer an early burnout like you see with some players, because he hasn't played an enormous amount of football because of the injuries that he's had. I just think we need to get a little bit better at managing his injuries, and that includes bringing in somebody that can rotate with him, give us the same type of physical presence when Ibu's not there. But I think you sign him to a new contract and you keep him. Joe Gomez is a really interesting one because he is 27, about to turn 28 in May. There's been talk for a couple of years that Joe has wanted to go back to London. He's contracted till 2027. Of course, the big knock on Joe is the injuries. When Joe is fit, he is exceptional. When he's fit and on form, there's very few centre-backs who are better than Joe Gomez. You can go up and down the league. There are not 10 better centre-backs than Joe Gomez. So if Joe is happy to stay, and he's happy to stay in a squad role where maybe he's the primary backup to Virgil in that left side centre-back role, which I really liked Joe in that left-sided role when he played there in 2020, 2021, between when Virgil got hurt and then Joe himself got hurt. He had a little run in that position, and I thought he looked great. I'd like to keep Joe if he's willing to stay. And it would have to be his decision because, ultimately, the guy should have had not a better career, but a more productive career. Injuries took away so much from him. But if he's willing to stay, I'd be in favor of keeping Joe as the primary backup to Virgil. And what it would mean is that he doesn't have Virgil's size, but he does have Virgil's speed. And he does read the game really well. And I think if you've got Joe as the backup to Virgil, you can start to play Virgil less and you can prolong Virgil's career. And we've heard Virgil in the past kind of complain about how much footballers have to play and things like that. So that could be a really good way to mitigate that. And we know with Joe, he can also play right back, he can play left back, and of course he can play right side centre back, where he's played a lot of his football for us, if not most of his football for us. So you'd have him as an option in a bunch of different positions. So I'd be in favour of keeping Joe. Kostas Tsimikas is 28. He'll turn 29 this season. Kostas' contract keeps him tied to the club. If this would ever load up, we could have a look and see when it would. He is contracted also till 2027. I would be in favour of keeping Kostas one more year and then selling him in 2026. He'll be 30. He'd have 1 year left. We won't get a huge fee. But I think of the two current left backs, I think he's the one to keep this summer because he's got 2 years left, because he's younger, because he's used to being the backup and is unlikely, therefore, to have any issues with being the backup. I think Kostas is the one to keep this summer. And I think it's time to move Andy Robertson on. So this coming summer, I'd be in favour of moving Andy Robertson on, wherever that is. There's been some talk about Celtic. They're in the process of signing Kieran Tierney, so I don't think they'd be looking at Robbo. But I'm sure there's Premier League clubs that would have interest, West Ham United. could have interest. They've had interest in the past. I think there'll be a Premier League move out there for him. But when you factor in, he's going to turn 31 in March. He'll have 1 year left on his contract. He has declined quite drastically. He earns big money. He's never been the backup before. And therefore, it's very hard to predict how he would react to being the backup. He's also the national captain for Scotland. So you'd imagine he's going to want to continue in that role. And to do so, he's going to have to be playing regularly at club level. And we can't afford to be playing him. We just can't. So this summer, I would suggest you move on Andy Robertson. But he is the only member of the defensive group that I would suggest should be moved on this summer. Costas next summer. And then it would depend on Gomez. But ideally, even if he does want to leave, you can convince him to give us 1 more year and move him on in 2026 when he'd have a year left on his deal. Joe Quansah and Connor Bradley, I don't think there's any doubt you keep both of them. Bradley is the backup right back and Quansah as maybe the 5th centre-back. Maybe there's a situation where you look at loaning him. Maybe you keep him next season as the 5th centre-back. And then in 2026, 27, you loan him out. And then maybe when he comes back, Gomez's contract is up and you look to move Joe on. Just not renew his deal. And Quansah takes over as the Virgil backup. He doesn't have Virgil's pace, but he has his size. He's aerially dominant. He reads the game pretty well. And Marinallo can become, the 5th centre-back while Quansah was on loan and then after Gomez goes. But I don't think there's any question that you'd be looking to move either of them on in the next 3 years. Beyond that, perhaps you would look to move them on. Maybe they get to a point, particularly Bradley, where he doesn't want to be a backup, but we don't feel he's quite good enough to be first choice. Or it's simply a fact that he is good enough, but we also have Trent or somebody else who are just a little bit better than him. And he has a high market value and you sell him to capitalize on that high market value. But for the next 3 years, you'd absolutely be looking at keeping both of those. So this summer, Andy Robertson to go. Next summer, 2026, Costas to go. 2027, Joe to go because of his contract running out in an ideal world. The rest would stay. Midfield. Alexis McAllister, I would have absolutely no consideration on allowing him to go anywhere. He is comfortably our best midfield player. He is 26, having just turned on Christmas Eve. I think he has 3.5 years left on his deal. That's absolutely the type of contract I would be looking to extend within the next 12 months. Because I think Alexis is an elite level footballer. And I think he's absolutely vital to everything we do. Dominic Szoboszlai is 24. I think he's only going to continue to get better. I'd like to see us use him a little bit more attacking, less water carrying that he has to do. But it's a role he's very capable in. And I would have absolutely no qualms about extending his contract when it comes up. Because age-wise, profile-wise, I think Szoboszlai is the type of player you keep as long as you possibly can. Ryan Gravenberch is obviously the other starting midfielder as things currently stand. He is 22, will turn 23 in May. If I'm not mistaken, his contract is till 2028, which would mean that you'd want to be extending his deal in 2026, at which time he would be 24 years of age. So you absolutely would look to extend his contract. Because even though he might be a sub-elite level player, and he might, ideally be one of 5 midfielders or 6 midfielders who rotate for 3 positions, he'll still be an important part of the squad, and his age is what's vital here. So there'd be no question for me of looking to move him on, unless he has a catastrophic dip in form. Like, unless he reverts back to the Gravenberch of last season. But that doesn't look likely. Even with the iffy form of late, he's still playing well above the level he displayed last season. So with Gravenberch, ideally, one of 5 for 3 roles next season, one of 6 for 3 roles the following season. I'll explain that in a minute. Then extend his contract and then just carry on as is. And I would say the same for Curtis Jones. Now, Curtis is a year older than Gravenberch, but that means that he would be, when's his contract up? 2027. So actually, you'll want to extend Curtis Jones' contract this year. This year is when Curtis needs a new deal. And again, like with Gravenberch, ideally he's in a group that is rotating in midfield to keep everybody fresh and try and minimize the number of injuries. Tyler Morton clearly just doesn't have a future at the club. And it's an unfortunate thing because he's a good footballer, but ultimately he's 22 years of age. He's played 13 times for us, and he's just not getting a look in this season. So there will be offers for him in the summer of 2025, and we should take anything above 15 million and move him on, let him go have a good career, put the usual protections in place, sell on clause, buyback, matching rights, whatever it is, you put them in place so that if he does go somewhere and really take his game to a level that we didn't foresee as a possibility, you have the ability to go and bring him back.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
The NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Wataru Endo is 31. Now, a little bit like Tyler Morton, it's quite clear he's not, front and center in the manager's plans. He's contracted till 2027. And I wouldn't be against the idea of, if a decent offer comes in this summer and he wants to go, you let him go. But likewise, I'm not against the idea of keeping him for a year, maybe. Keeping him for a year and then letting him go. Because I look at Trainiani, and he's the one I would say can become part of a six-man group in midfield. We know he's got that talent, and the potential is undeniable and quite clear. He does feature in the long-term plans of the club. But even in the 26-27 season, Trey is going to be a very young player. And he's not someone you're going to want to throw in for heavy minutes. It's going to be a small role to begin with. Endo has a small role in the squad. So I wouldn't be against him continuing the role he has and then moving on and having Trey replace him. Now, not replace him in terms of, he's the de facto defensive midfielder, just in terms of the actual minutes that he's getting. And then from there, it's up to Trey to win himself more minutes, which, given the talent, the potential, absolutely a possibility. Then there's my midfield controversy. I would sell Harvey Elliott. And this is a value thing. This is the Connor Bradley argument I was making earlier, why we might sell Bradley in a few years. I think we're at that sort of situation with Harvey. If you look at how much Harvey had played under Jurgen, and even in the season at Blackburn, this is a guy that was used to playing 40 plus games a season, and it would have been for 4 years in a row, if not for the horrific ankle break. And this season, he's unlikely to even get to, 30 appearances? And his minutes have dropped quite drastically. He doesn't really have a spot in this Liverpool team. He doesn't work as a 10 because of the makeup of the midfield. And you can't play him right wing because there's a fella there who's quite good. And our existing 10, Szoboszlai, is better than him. And Harvey is a player that does have a high market value. But that market value will drop if he's not playing regularly. Take Morton, for example. We probably could have gotten 18 million for Tyler Morton this past summer. We were asking for 25. We probably could have got 18 coming off a strong season with Hull. Coming off a season where he sat on the bench and oftentimes not even made the bench, it's very hard to see that value having held come this coming summer. Where, like I say, if it's 15 million, I think you grab it and you run. The same is true of Harvey. The longer it goes where he's not playing regularly, the more his value will erode. And I just don't see a world in which he becomes first choice for us. But this manager is not playing games. He's very clear in what he wants. And when you watch what he's done with the number 10 position, if it's not Dominic, it's Harvey. If it's not Dominic, it's Curtis. It's not Harvey. It's Curtis. Or it's Trainiani. He's not giving Harvey opportunity in that position. Because I don't think he views him as a midfield player. When Arne arrived, he talked about how he plays 4-3-3, okay? And people took that to mean a 4-3-3 formation. But the Dutch speak about football in a different way than we speak about football. So when he says 4-3-3, he means 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, 3 forwards. He doesn't mean a line of 4, a line of 3, a line of 3. So when we line up in a 4-2-3-1. That's the formation. But the makeup of that formation is a 4-3-3. It's 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 3 attackers. So he wants to play 3 midfielders in there. And I don't know that he sees Harvey as a midfielder. And I don't think any of us would be very happy. As much as people like Harvey, and I like Harvey, he's a good player. He's got a lot of talent. Nobody's going to be happy if Mo departs in a free this summer and Harvey Elliott is presented to us as the replacement. Nobody is going to be happy about that. And that would put a very unfair amount of pressure on Harvey. So if Mo did leave, the club would have to buy somebody. They just would. There'd be no turning around and saying, oh, we've got Harvey and Chiesa, we're good. You wouldn't be for very long. So if a good offer comes in for Harvey this season, and I mean a good offer, I'm talking 40 million and above. I don't think it would go much above, but I think you could get 40 for him. I think we'd be absolutely out of our minds to turn it down. I really do. And again, it's nothing against him. It's about the makeup of the team and the pieces that fit. And yes, he can play a role for us off the bench. But that's not in the best interest of him and his career. That's not going to help his development. That will cause regression. We've already seen this season. He doesn't look as good as he did last year at times. Harvey played too much under Jurgen. The amount he's playing under Arne is a little bit too little, but it's not drastically too little. There are only a handful of games this season where it's been we should have brought Harvey on here kind of moment. Forest is the one that obviously stands out. Maybe both Forest games. But when you introduce Harvey Elliott, even though you are giving yourself an injection of creativity and movement, you are also losing something off the ball. And this manager is very, very keen on always having balance. Jurgen was less pushed by that. Jurgen was happy at times to have an unbalanced team. And we saw it for 2 straight years where we literally just didn't have anybody defend other than the 2 centre-backs. And everybody else just went forward with reckless abandon. And we were a train wreck defensively. They're the seasons Harvey was playing, and he was a big part of why we were so weak defensively. Again, it's not his fault. It just is what it is. So, with Harvey, I would sell this summer. But if he sticks around, I would still be in a sell him in 26 or sell him in 27 mindset. Because I don't see a path where he becomes first choice for us if we're a team wanting to win the league. And I know he says, this is my club, I always dreamed of it. That's all well and good. But at the end of the day, he is an asset of the football club. And he's a sellable asset who could bring in a significant fee that could be reinvested into players that can become first choice starters for this football club. And ultimately, the football club is what comes first, not the player. The club has to come first. And we're going to have to be ruthless on certain players. Moving on into the attack. So, Mo, 33 this summer. shows little to no signs of dropping below a world-class level. His game is changing. There's definitely areas where he's not quite what he used to be in terms of maybe his foot speed, but his passing, the way he reads and interprets the game, they've all gone way, way up. Mo is actually getting better as a footballer. As an all-round footballer, Mo is improving, which is a truly remarkable thing. I have long said if Mo stays long enough, Mo can break Ian Rush's record. I still stand by that. If he stays long enough, he can do it. And I'm not saying if he stays for 8 years, he'll do it. I think he could do it if he stayed for, what is he, 113 behind Rush? Ian Rush. 346. He's 113 behind Rush. And this season, Mo is on course to do absolutely mental things. He's going to end up, you'd imagine, with the most goal contributions. This season, Mo is probably on course for 35. He has slowed a little bit in recent weeks. 35 goals this season, so that's another 13. So he'd be 100 shy of Rush. Is there any reason to think he couldn't put together 2 more 30-goal seasons? And then maybe 2 20-goal seasons after that? I don't think there is. I think if Mo signs a 2+1, and then if he's willing to stay beyond that, now beyond that his wages would have to come down because I think he'd have more of a squad role than an automatic starting role. But you absolutely keep him as long as he wants to stay. Same thing with Virgil. As long as they want to be at the club, you let them stay at the club. You pay them what they want, and you just fucking get on with it. The reason I would say it's slightly different with Alisson is because Alisson has injury issues, and we already have our long-term successor secured. We don't have that with Virgil. We don't have that with Mo. I have ideas about who it should be for Mo, but again, they'd be coming in and you'd be looking at 2 to 3 years of them developing behind Mo, and then maybe a changing of the guard. But I think you would still ideally like Mo to stick around because he could play minutes on the right, he could play minutes through the middle, and he's still going to be a machine for production. And look, if Mo looks after himself the way he has done, again, he could play 4 or 5 years at an elite level, scoring. The off-ball stuff will suffer, but his production might not. Look at Cristiano Ronaldo. Look at the goal numbers he continued to put up after the age of 33. And you can say, well, he's better than Mo. Was he better at 32 than Mo is now? I don't think he was. I don't think he was better than Mo is now at 32. But yes, so he turned 33 in 2018, which is the summer he went to Juve. He scored 28, 37, 36, and 24 across his next 4 seasons. 3 in Serie A, 1 in the Premier League. That's all competitions goals. Now, he did make United worse and he made Juve worse, but he's a selfish player and Mo is not. Oh, we were actually meant to celebrate the fact that he's a great lad who's scoring loads of goals in Saudi Arabia. Anyway, Mo should be kept for the next 3 years. I have no desire to hear any argument to the contrary.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, We don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.